Hello folks, I am back with another firearms review. This is going to be on the Walther PDP, also known as the Personal Defense Pistol. I'm going to show clear real quickly here. Nothing here, nothing here. And you're going to see the PPQ. This one is in 45. And I'm going to show clear here. Now, I'm going to tell you about the good and the ugly with the PDP. I'll explain that in a moment. This version that I have is going to be the 4.5-inch barrel version. It's also going to be the full grip length version with the 18 rounds. And I'm going to explain what I mean by 18 rounds. So this is going to be the full size of the line that Walther has put out on the PDP. Now, let's go with some of the enhancements that Walther has done versus the PPQ. As you see on the new PDP, it's optic ready in advance, and you see that these have these really good serrations that you can get a really good grip. A lot of people talk about the PDP because of the grip texture. Now, that grip texture was strung over from, I believe, the Q5 match and the Q4, which were in steel frames. So they carried that technology over. So this is what it's really a nice texture and what everybody is really raving about. I have the larger strap on here because it's the most comfortable for me. Let me show you on the PPQ. Now on the PPQ, I'm going to show you this texture right here. The texture underneath here, this is covered by a Talon grip, a rubberized grip. Now this texture right here was a fairly decent texture, but it wasn't the best texture in the world because you couldn't really get a really good grip that well, especially if you have sweaty hands or wet hands. So that's why you see the Talon grip tape on here. And this is a version here with the grip that the PDP has. This right here has a better texture, and it's totally different. It has front strap checkering, reminiscent of a 1911 firearm, and with the front checkering on the trigger guard as well. If you look at the PPQ, it doesn't have what you call a real front strap checkering, but it does have these little ridges right here for the on the trigger guard for enhanced grip. A lot of people will notice immediately that you will see that the on the front of these particular firearms here, and no, I'm not muzzling myself, on the front of the firearms here, you'll see the way the design is here, and also you'll notice the front grip serrations right here. Now, if you look here, they kind of have that look a little bit, but it's a little more squared off. And it's a little more squared off, and it's a little bit, I would say, the slide is a little bit more heavier. And the decent part about this is, even though it is squared off, it really has a nice look to it, something that's a pretty much an upgraded look from the previous model of the PPQ, which is was becoming to get old at some point. One thing that's a big difference that Walther is touting with the PDP is the trigger. Now, I had to get used to the trigger a little bit because the trigger is, I'm used to the old PPQ triggers. Now, if you look on this trigger here, you have your take up, it goes back, there's a defined wall, you press, and then that's it, boom. When firing at the range, I felt like the trigger was throwing my finger forward. It was pushing my finger forward, especially if I wanted to take my time and do, let's say, target in to get a good trigger press. So what I would do is I would slowly release the trigger until I got to the reset, but it felt like it pushed my trigger finger too far. Now, if you look on the PPQ, it has that take. There's a little grindiness right here, and that's the upgrade that this trigger on the PDP did. It got rid of that grindiness. So you see right there, it's kind of like a little stagey, a little grindy. So when you pull the trigger, you finally feel that wall. You pull the trigger, and it's somewhat of a defined wall. But when you release the trigger, there it is right there. You get a really decent reset. Now, I didn't demonstrate that well because I just told you that the trigger seemed to push my finger, but it's basically right there, and you fire. Now, with the PDP, I felt like the trigger was really pushing my finger out under, like I said, slow conditions where I'm trying to just aim, take my time, reset the trigger because I don't usually break contact with the trigger. But under normal shooting conditions, when you're shooting at a different pace, you don't notice that. You don't feel like your finger is being pushed out or anything like that. It's just on the slower shots I felt that. But I worked on it a bit, and I felt as though that maybe it was just me, maybe it's my shooting style, whatever. I always blame myself first, so I always try to make the proper adjustments on shooting. As you see here, we already went over the grips. We already have the sights here. A lot of people are not happy about the sights. So one of the good things that Walther did was these are Glock compatible sights. So what you can do is you can put any type of sighting system on here, such as, let's say, a True Glow or whatnot. So True Glow doesn't have to make a specialized sight for the PDP. You can just pick up one of the Glock versions, and the Glock versions will definitely be compatible with the sight once you take that out and replace it. So I was thinking about doing that, but I'm not going to do that at this time. I'm going to wait until I get my optic. I chose the Holosun 507C. So I'll wait until I put that on here, and then I'll see what I'll do with the front and back sights, whether I want to co-witness them or not. Especially with the Holosun, I like that reticle that they have, which is circular, so I might not even change these out. So I'm waiting for my plate from Walther. If you don't know, once you purchase the firearm, the Walther will send out a plate free of charge, and you just have to specify for what optic that you're going to use. The other thing is, if you want anything additional, it's going to be at a cost. Now, I just mentioned to you about the ugly a minute ago, and you're probably wondering. Here's what I'm calling the ugly. Like I said, this is a full-size firearm, but if you look at these magazines, these are 10-round magazines. You could tell by the dimple right here. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, why would you get, if you live in a free state, why would you get a firearm that only has 10 rounds? I believe this was probably intended to go to a compacity limited state such as New Jersey or New York. So, but still, I figured, hey, look, the firearm is here. I might as well have it and then just get the magazines later. So it comes with, if you live in a capacity limited state, it's going to be 10-round magazines. But there is an 18-round magazine in here. You're probably saying, you just said you only got 10-round magazine. This is a Canik magazine. Let me see what model. This is for the TP9 series. And it does work in here, but I had a little bit of a problem. The first day of shooting with the PDP, I had no issues whatsoever. There were no malfunctions or whatnot, and there's still no malfunctions. The Canik 18-round magazines were working flawless, no problem. So my range session today, I will put the magazine in, charge it, make sure I slapped it in real good, make sure there was a tug and pull. So as I was shooting a couple rounds, what happens is the magazine fell. Now, I thought it was me. Maybe I gripped and put my meat on my palm here and touched the magazine release, because sometimes when I shoot, I try to have a tight grip. Then the magazine fell out again. So this time I wanted to make sure my finger wasn't there, so I shot it with one hand, and boom, the magazine came out. Now, what happened from my first shooting experience with this magazine till now, I don't know. I don't even have an answer for you on that. So a friend of mine told me that the TP9 magazines will work, and he said it will work perfectly. It did, but unfortunately something happened. I don't know. I don't get it. And I had no other malfunctions or anything else, but for some reason I'm unable to do what I want to do with this magazine, to keep a full magazine, because it was like you shoot, the magazine drops, you pick it up, put it back in, shoot, you drop, and it just got repetitive. These two magazines here were pretty much flawless. No problems with that. They're the 10 rounders. I've checked online to various outlets to find 18 round mags, official Walther mags. I can't find them. Walther's website, they are out of stock as well. So it's probably just a matter of what's been going on as far as the pandemic and whatnot. So yeah, I'm just going to be patient. And like I said, I'm not going to worry about with the 10 round magazines. I mean, look, I carry a 1911, so that's not going to get me upset in the least. Other than that, let's say that the shooting experience with the PDP is excellent. I started out with 7 rounds, 10 rounds, 7 yards, 10 yards, 13 yards, and 15 yards. And from that first day, the shots came in very well. I'm just learning it, adjusting it. This, I believe, is at the 7-yard interval. This one was over at the 10-yard interval. Sorry about this. And I'm not going to put you through all that, looking at all the targets. They're pretty much the same. So, all in all, this firearm is a very, very decent firearm. And it is a really decent, accurate shooter, much better than I am. One thing they had talked about is the way this lip comes in, where when you grip the firearm, the lip is with your pinky, once you press down on it, your sights are supposed to really align. Well, when they're talking about sights, in this particular case, they were talking about red dots. Well, it does the same thing with the regular sights on here. So, other than the issue with the magazines, I'm just going to wait and get those other magazines later. The PDP is a very, very decent firearm. I like shooting it. I'm going to do some further testing with it. Right now, I've just fell short of 1,000 rounds. I have about 900 rounds in this. And like I said, outside of the magazine dropping, everything was flawless, no malfunctions, stovepipes, nothing like that. And you saw by the targets that they're pretty accurate. So I'm just going to cut this video short and just tell you, I'll keep you posted on what's going, whether if I find magazines for this. And that's all I have, folks. So happy shooting, stay safe, #2A.